This is the continuation of Legend Symbology, Labeling, and Layouts portion of the Intro to GIS course. I'm just going to finish up the last bit of layouts here and talk about how to add a second map. So if you've been following this lecture, we now have our map with Missouri with all of our necessary components. Fairly poorly designed map here, but we'll work on that. It's pretty common for us to need a map that has more than one map within the same page. You're pretty familiar with this, I think, from maps that you see on the news where you'll see a portion of the world that is highlighted and then an enlarged portion, an enlarged map of just that portion. So that's what we're going to learn how to do here. In order to do that, we have to have two data frames. If we want two maps in our project, we have to have two data frames in our table of contents. There's a fairly simple way to do this. If we want to show the same portion of the world, which in our case we do, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that all of your symbology is how you want it. Whatever labels you're planning to put on here, whether you want it to be an orange diamond or something else, you want that all to be set. You don't want to have to make any changes later because then you'll have to make them twice. Once you're all set to go, then you're in essence just going to copy this layer and make a second one. So the way that we do that initially is we just insert a data frame. So we now have a new data frame, and you can even see it shows up in our layout. Now the next thing we're going to do is perfectly copy all of our feature classes. I'm just going to highlight, hold my control button down so that I can select all three of them, and then select copy, move to my new data frame, and select paste layers. At that point I get a perfect replication of what I had before. Now at this point it becomes important to make a clear determination between which data frame is going to be a full extent and which is going to be zoomed in. So we're going to rename the data frames appropriately, and remember we select the data frame, not the feature class, but the data frame itself, right click down to properties, and then change the name. So we'll call one Missouri, and we'll call the other one United States, so that we're pretty clear about which one is supposed to be zoomed in and which one is supposed to be the full extent. Now remember, each one of these is independent, but if we want to work on one, it has to be active. So you can tell which one is active, one, because there are grab bars around it, but two, because it is bold within the table of contents. So if I want to manipulate the United States one, I have to make sure that it is selected, and then I'm just going to do whatever I choose. If I want to manipulate the other one, I have to right click and activate it, and then go in and zoom and alter it in whatever way I want to do that. So one would show just the state of Missouri and the other one would show the United States. And what we want to do is create a connection so that anyone who might not be familiar with where Missouri is can see it in relation to the rest of the United States. So we do that through what's referred to as an extent indicator. Now the way that we connect the two, and then we'll work on design after we get them together. The way that we connect the two is by making a connection from the one that is the full extent. So we go to the one that is the full extent, down to its properties box. Now note we're in the data frame properties box, not the individual feature class properties box. We select the Extent Indicator tab. From here, it opens up a new box and we identify which other data frame. Now it's possible you might have more than two. In our case, we only have two, so it by default lists here. We arrow it over to indicate that that's the one that it will be connected to. Now, even though it seems obvious, we do need to identify that we want to have a frame around it. It defaults to this very extreme thick red orange. So we're going to just lighten that a little bit. Black might not be the best color just because it looks like everything else. So we might stick within the red arena, but we just might make it a little bit lighter. And then OK. So once we've done that, whoops, maybe we made that a little bit too light. But once we've done that, we now have a box within the area of Missouri. Here, I'll zoom in here so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, since this is pretty light, let's go in and change it, and then you can see how to do that. So you just go back into the extent indicator dialog box, you select the Missouri line again, and then you can move back into the frame and change the color. This will also provide us the opportunity to add a leader line. So if we want a line that connects the two maps together, we can show the leader. And then again, you can alter this. It defaults to this crazy red again. So we'll change it to this and maybe shrink the line down a little bit, make it a little thick so we can see it, but we don't want it to be too prominent, and then we'll okay that. So then you can see that we have a line, a box here, and then the leader line connects the two together. Now once we've done that, understand that they're connected. So if I manipulate one, for example, if I make the selection for the state of Missouri, and then I zoom out, note that my box here changes as well, right? If I zoom anywhere, if I pan over in one, it will automatically switch within the other one. So they're connected now. So now that we have everything that we might want, we can go ahead and design our page. Usually you want to make, again, the map that is the most important, you want that one to be the most prominent. Sorry. There we go. One more. There we go. So I'm going to change the function of my cursor back to the pointer tool, and then I'm going to just manipulate this box around to wherever it is that I want it. I need to move my legend a little bit. I also now need to remember that my scale bars need to represent the correct map at this point. So I'll go ahead and put my scale bar directly in the map for this one, so that I can have a different scale bar for my second map, which needs to be smaller. I'll change the amount of size that it takes up on the map itself. I can manipulate its location, right? Then we just design the page. One thing I think I pointed out in the notes is, boy, can you spend a bunch of time doing this, just tinkering and moving things around and all kinds of ideas. Don't get too caught up. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want you to do a good job and show a map that has everything that you might want to show in it. But at the same time, you really can spend a lot of time tinkering around. So, but anyway, I need to go ahead and make a scale bar for this. So I will highlight it to tell the computer that I need a scale bar connected to this one, and then just go ahead in and add a second scale bar. You usually want your scale bars to match in terms of form, so don't have one scale bar in this design and another scale bar in this design. You want them to be the same. So just connect it, and then very quickly you need to remember which one is connected to which. So then you can, again, just rearrange your page so that it looks a little bit nicer than this, I would ask, and just add whatever other information you're interested in so that the map looks nice. Those cities look pretty prominent here. So on this one, right, we can manipulate what's on each one. I might actually undraw cities on my full United States, because with them drawn, it was just pretty clustered and I couldn't see my box very well. So I might just go ahead and change that. You can manipulate them in any way that you choose. I might need to make my scale bar here a little bit smaller, right? So again, you just manipulate it in whatever way sees fit so that it looks nice. I will potentially have on assignments, comments on your assignments, something to the effect of watch your white space. What I mean by that is if you have any blank space, for example, right here, this is not particularly well designed. I might, if I were to spend a little more time on this, I might try to make sure that there was not this big gap of white space here. Just redesign things so that it better fit within the area. Another thing to keep in mind is if you have something, in this case, for example, cities on one map, but it is not on the other map, it still needs to be in your legend. Whatever is on your map anywhere needs to be in your legend. So, although that's not beautiful, that concludes this portion of the lecture.